Hello everyone and happy Tuesday. Today is the 14th of April and this is our 8th lesson, lesson 7, which I think I uploaded on Easter Day, and this lesson and number 9 would be relative to a Tuesday class. I am videoing just whenever I have the time and the opportunity to do that. But if it helps you all, I will try to let you know, if this is a Tuesday lesson or a Thursday lesson for this particular week. So 7, 8, and 9 are Tuesday today, and 10, 11, and 12 will be Thursday. And I don't have those videoed yet, but I will. So I hope everybody's doing well. I'm sitting down for a change. I'll see how this goes for the next little bit. Going to pick back up with writing today. And first, as a moment of review, we have been talking about the importance of organizing for writing. We talked about how using an organizer or a planner or sketching one out for ourselves helps us to really kind of gather up our ideas and be prepared before we start writing. It takes a little bit of time up front. However, in the end, it will save us a lot of time. In the end, we'll have less revising that we need to do. And that can be very helpful because revising is a lot of work sometimes. So pre-planning really makes a difference. Our writing will turn out to be clearer to the reader. It will be more concise, and we will do what we set out to do at the beginning of our essay or our article, whatever written piece that we are attempting to do. We looked kind of closely, let me pull this a little closer to me. We looked kind of closely at introductory paragraphs and what an introductory paragraph is all about. We learned that there are 4 ways that you might choose to grab your reader's attention. We said that you might use a quote, you might use an anecdote, a story. You might ask a question, or you might mention a myth or state a fact. Any of those things can be good ways that we grab the reader's attention. The other important thing that needs to happen in the introductory paragraph is that we need to make really clear what our topic is about. It's best if we can do that without sounding so very robotic about it. In other words, we don't really want to say, my topic is, okay? That can sound kind of boring in writing. We want to express what that topic is in a more natural way, but we definitely need to be pretty clear about that so that our reader understands where we're going. I shared an essay with you via email a little while ago. Here's my copy of it. It's called Video Cameras in Classrooms. This essay, I would imagine, was written by a high school student or maybe a college student. It describes a situation and it's sort of an argumentative essay that I think maybe many of us have kind of thought about for ourselves. It's a question of the whole idea of being observed by cameras in places that we go is something that, I think we have mixed feelings about. So this student has written this essay on that topic. We know the topic From the title, of course, we have a pretty good idea. We don't know from the title if the reader is going to be arguing for cameras or against cameras, or if the reader is just going to share general information about cameras in classrooms. We don't know that yet. Let's look at this first paragraph. If you haven't printed it out, you might want to pause and do that now so that you'll have it ready. And let's look at this paragraph. And I'm going to read it, and I'd like you to follow along, read aloud if you'd like. Vocabulary in this first paragraph, I don't see anything too unusual except perhaps the word twitch, which just means twitch, like that, a twitch of the hand, just a slight movement. And the word clatters is another word that's used, for something that makes a lot of noise. So you could have a clattering sound, outside, and you go to check and see what it is, and maybe, a flower pot has fallen over and it clatters to the ground. Okay? All right, beginning this paragraph. You are seated in class as your teacher explains and points things out on the whiteboard. You twitch your hand, accidentally nudging your pencil, which rolls off your desk and clatters to the floor. As you lean over to pick up your pencil, your cell phone falls out of your pocket. Luckily, you catch it without your teacher seeing, but it is in plain view of the video camera's shiny lens that points straight at you. The classroom phone rings, and after a brief conversation, your teacher walks over to your desk and kneels down beside you. About that cell phone of yours. How did that get you in trouble? How could it possibly be a good idea to put cameras in classrooms? All right, pop quiz. Which technique did the writer use to grab the reader's attention? Did the writer tell a quote? Did the writer state a fact or a myth? Did the writer use an anecdote? Did the writer ask a question? The writer actually did two things, okay? If you guessed anecdote, you're right. That's the most noticeable thing that the writer does to grab our attention. The writer tells a little story about himself or herself. And the story is clear. It describes an embarrassing situation, one that we have all experienced. I know I certainly have, whether it was in a college classroom or professional development classroom or, wherever I might have been that I needed to be quiet and something lands on the floor. It's always embarrassing, right? So this writer tells this little story or this anecdote to get our attention and to make us want to read more. And then the writer actually uses question as well, because the writer asks, how did that get you in trouble? Now we know that the story, happened, and now the writer's a little bit bothered by how this whole thing, needed to be something that would cause him to get in trouble. And then he says, how could it possibly be a good idea to put cameras in classrooms? He asks another question here, which serves as a hook for the reader to grab the attention, but it also states his topic. His topic isn't stated in a robotic and boring way. He doesn't say, I do not think it is a good idea to put cameras in classrooms, or I am going to tell you why I don't think cameras should be in classrooms. He could have done that. It would have been okay, but he actually does something a little more interesting. He says, how could it possibly be a good idea to put cameras in classrooms? We know through that question that he's asking there that he's not really in favor of cameras in classrooms, and that this essay that he has written is going to most likely help us to see why he doesn't think it's a good idea to have cameras in classrooms. So I think that this introductory paragraph is cleverly done. I think that this writer gets good points for an introductory paragraph that does what we need it to do, and that is to entice us, to invite us to want to keep reading. Now we go into the body of the paragraph, the body of the essay. The body of the essay is that part that then is generally going to be 3, possibly 2, possibly 4, depending, on the requirement and depending on the information that you need to share. But it's going to be about 3 paragraphs that are going to be our reasons or the main points that we want to make to support our topic. All right? These paragraphs might include facts, but they're certainly going to include some supporting details for each of our reasons or ideas about the topic. Now, I would say that his essay is sort of an argumentative essay. He's trying to argue or even persuade the reader, about his issue with cameras in the classroom. So in each paragraph, we're going to try to figure out, okay, does he have a main idea here and a supporting detail or two to help those paragraphs to be strong? All right, let's see what we think. Let's look at paragraph 1 following the introduction, or the second paragraph of the paper, however you want to look at that. When students are in their classrooms, teachers are in the classroom too, usually. But when a teacher goes out of the classroom, what usually happens is either everything goes on as usual, or the students get a little more talkative. Cameras aren't there because people talk a lot. It is the teacher's job to keep people quiet. If something horrible happened, somebody in class would usually report it, or it would just be obvious to the teacher when he came back that something had happened. All right. In this paragraph, I hear the writer defending the idea that if a classroom is active and open and there are students there, that there is usually a teacher there as well. And in that case, why is a camera really necessary? There is a teacher there watching the students. That's his idea, and I think he tries to defend that by giving some supporting details. He says, cameras wouldn't be there just because people talk a lot, because that's not a crime. That's really the teacher's job to manage whatever. The teacher can say be quiet or not be quiet. Cameras are really there if something horrible happens, but if something horrible happens, it's going to be obvious. The teacher is going to come back in and notice that something horrible has happened, or the students are going to run out of the room or whatever. So do we really need a camera there, even if something horrible happens? That's his argument. I would give him probably, if I were doing this on a 1 to 5 scale, I would probably give him 3.5 points, maybe 4 for this paragraph. I think it could be a little bit stronger, but I do see that he is arguing a basic idea that cameras are unnecessary because he is saying that the teacher's role is to monitor the classroom. and that if that's happening, then the camera is not so necessary. So again, I think it could be a little stronger, but I think we see that he has one argument there that he is discussing to support his overall topic. Let's look at the next paragraph. If we already have cameras in the halls, why spend the money to get 30 more cameras for all the different classrooms? Our school district already has a low budget, so we would be spending money on something completely unnecessary. There hasn't been camera-worthy trouble in classrooms. Camera-worthy trouble would be bad behavior every time a teacher left the room. There is no reason to install cameras that might just cause trouble both for the students and for the budget. All right, oftentimes writers point to economics, don't they? The cost of something, the budget, these kinds of things. And that's what this writer is doing. This writer is pointing out that camera systems cost the schools a lot of money. And that in his particular school, there's just not been, that many problems to really say this is worth the expense. He says that the school has a low budget, and this would just be an extra expense that maybe could be used, the money could be used in a better way. Camera-worthy trouble, that's an unusual way to say it, but if something is worthy, it means it's worth it, okay? So camera-worthy trouble would be trouble going on that you would find it worth it to have the camera to record that trouble, okay? And he says that camera-worthy trouble would be if you had problems all the time, bad behavior every time that the teacher left the room. And he doesn't see that in his particular school or school district. He doesn't see that being really typical for their everyday experience there in that school. He says, basically that we might have trouble now and then, but not all the time. So why would we need a camera all the time and the expense of that? He also says that installing the cameras could be a problem for the students and for the budget. Problem for the students, I suppose, means that it's annoying to students. It worries them maybe, or maybe they are accused of things and they're really not a big deal, but the camera has made it into a big deal. So I think this paragraph is pretty good. I think, again, he does continue to do what he sets out to do in his introduction. I think it could use some revising. I think we always look at writing with the idea of how could it be stronger, so I'm going to always do that, and there's not a perfect essay anywhere. But I think he does get his point across here in this paragraph. All right, I'm going to pause, and when we restart, we'll look at paragraph 3 and see what he does with that one.